Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have another first impression and it's going to be on another Areej Doré fragrance. I have been, my thought process on the house has really shifted because I tried some things early on and I wasn't the biggest fan of some of the things that I tried. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'm kind of more of a Bortnikov guy. And I did buy some full bottles from Bortnikov, and I enjoy that style. I enjoy the Bortnikov style. He does these amazing floral fragrances. He uses frangipani and stuff like that that you just don't see every day in an amazing way. And I really love Oud Maximus. It's my favorite real oud, but I got this sample set out of the kindness of Russian Adam. He saw a video of mine, reached out, and said, hey, I'd like to send you some of my work. And I said, as long as it's not full bottles, bring it on. Excuse me, I'd love to smell some of his stuff. And so, at first I kind of started out slow, and then I started picking up steam because I realized, wow, some of this stuff is really amazing. And I really loved Ottoman Empire. And Russian Oud is an amazing creation. Siberian Musk I really loved, and stuff like that. War and Peace. So some of them just really started to grow on me. So now I'm getting to the point where when it's like, what do I wear today? I want to try there's this one, which is called Oud Picante. And Oud Picante is from 2017. And then there's one more. I only have one more left that I haven't given a try to, and it's called Oud Zen. So we'll do Oud Zen pretty soon in the next week or so. But Oud Picante, now, so I've been all excited because I've tried these other fragrances that I really loved, and so if you go watch some of my first impression videos from like Antiquity and War and Peace, you'll see how excited I was for those. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be another absolute banger. And I put it on and I went, what? This is not for me. But then I said, why am I saying that? Why am I saying it's not for me? Is it because it's challenging? I like challenging fragrances. So let me see if I can give you guys what the scent smells like. Because these first impressions of these Areej Doré fragrances, you have to understand, these are sold out. These are limited. He makes limited run batches of fragrances, and it's kind of a one-time thing lots of times, unless there's a round two, unless there's like a War and Peace 2, for example, or an Oud Picante 2, I don't think you'll ever get to experience it again. And I think Oud Picante is one that was kind of a one-and-done thing. So this is more an understanding of the brand. People might want to learn about what he did in the past to get an idea of whether they want to buy his fragrances again in the future. That's the way that I'm approaching these, because you can't take this fragrance review or just, Ramsey's ramblings about fragrances, if you will, whatever you want to call it, and just go to his website and buy the fragrance. It doesn't exist. You could maybe go to eBay and spend 2, 3, 4, 5 times the price on a bottle that someone bought and has held on to since 2017 and jacked the price up. But you can't just go retail and buy it. That's the unfortunate part. But I hope these at least shed some light, because, if I had somebody I trust that reviewed these, I would probably know more about them, and I probably would have been more willing to just, step up to the plate and buy some of this when it first came out than I was before. So let's talk about this fragrance. This one, the first hour is one of the most challenging fragrances for me I've ever worn. It has a couple things in the opening, but I took notes like I usually do. And Oud Picante gives you this Sahara Noir-like opening, but with extreme spices. So the spices that are most prominent are cardamom, cumin, cinnamon, clove, and nutmeg, okay? The oud is an oud that's called Wild Borneo Oud, and it's oud oil distilled by Russian Adam. I don't know enough about the different types of oud to distinguish between them. All I know is that this fragrance, this particular one, Oud Picante, is very unique in the way that it smells and acts, even with Russian Adam's fragrances. There's nothing I can really compare it to. It's totally different than Russian Oud. If you go to a Bortnikov fragrance, it's totally different than Oud Monarch, Oud Maximus, all that stuff. They don't smell anything like this. And there's a couple reasons for that. But before, we get into at least my 2 cents on it, let me give you the note tree so you have an idea and talk to you a little bit about the opening. So when you first spray, it literally smells like, to me, what I got is you're walking around a spice bazaar, okay? And that spice bazaar, originally, I had this Middle Eastern thought process in my mind. I was thinking maybe like Egypt in the old days. You know how they used to sell spices, literally a spice bazaar. You'd go and they'd have all the different spices, the beautiful colors, laid out on someone's table outside, and you could just go buy your spices locally. That's the image that it gave me. But then I started reading more about the fragrance, and there's a couple notes in here. There's carrot seed, spikenard, tobacco, coffee. The base is Apopanax, Bengal sandalwood, which we'll maybe try to come back to if I remember, and then a note called muhuhu. And muhuhu is a particular type of sandalwood tree that grows in Africa, specifically in Angola, Kenya, Mozambique, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. And apparently it's harvested primarily for things like wood carvings, furniture, construction, because it has that kind of very durable quality. I've never seen muhuhu in a fragrance before, ever. But once I read Africa, it hit me. This is not the Middle East. This is Africa. This is safari. This is, you are in, a land that is where human civilization started. And you get smells and scents and sounds and, this feel that is completely foreign. Africa almost feels like a different world in and of itself to me as an outsider. I've never been to Africa. But, when I think about Africa and what it holds, and, they say that human civilization started in Africa, and you think about the African landscape and the animals that live there. It's a very unique continent. It's also a huge continent. People don't realize just how big Africa is. I think I read somewhere that maps distort the size of Africa because the old map making processes make Africa seem smaller than it really is. I think you could actually fit Russia inside of Africa if you turned it the other way, kind of thing. So it's a large landmass. So I say all that to say that you get a couple things when you first spray. Number one, it's very, very challenging to me. And normally, I'm a big fan of cumin. Like, I have fragrances like L'Enfant Terrible from Javoy. Eau de Hermes is my favorite Edmund Rudnitska fragrance, and that's a cumin. That's a case study in how to properly use cumin. I've talked about Rochas Femme from the 1940s before on my channel. There's beautiful cumin there. So cumin is a note that doesn't necessarily put me off, but somehow the mixture of the spices and the oud, I'm guessing it's a mixture of the spices and the oud, although there are other animalic notes in here, like costus, for example. Costus gives this almost like wet animalic, almost like a wet animal vibe to me, if you will. And then you get this, I got this Arabic breakfast accord on my skin, which sounds very strange, but if you've ever had Arabic breakfast, one of the most popular things to eat is what's called zait and za'atar. And it's like Arabic bread, and you dip it in olive oil, and then you dip it in this spiced mixture, this mixture of spices that they use. I don't know exactly what's in it, but I'm sure we could look it up and I could maybe tell you. Let's see if it's an easy search. It is It is an easy search. It is sesame seeds, dried sumac, salt, spices, Middle Eastern, oregano, stuff like that. And it kind of, they mix it up, but it's the oil in particular that I'm talking about, not necessarily the za'atar spice that I'm thinking of. It's the oil, that olive oil with Arabic bread. Somehow there is this almost like an olive oil vibe, which is strange. Because there is that cumin and there's the spices, and that's why I say it's like walking through a spice bazaar, but in Africa. Put yourself in Africa in a savanna, and when you're on that savanna going through the spice bazaar is just a stop. You get back in your safari vehicle and you continue going, and you run into a path where the water buffalo are roaming, or the rhinoceroses, or whatever crazy animals you come across in Africa. And, you know, animals have that unwashed smell, right? That unwashed smell. There's, you know, animals aren't going to use the toilet and flush it, so you have their feces lying around. It is that kind of challenging opening to me, for whatever reason. And when I first put it on, I thought, whoa, this is tough even for me. I can't believe that there are fans of this. They must have very advanced noses. And then I thought, I'm not being fair to this fragrance, because this fragrance is bold, it's daring, it's taking a chance. All things I love in fragrances. Why am I being hard on this fragrance? Why am I not giving a chance? And the beautiful thing about this fragrance is that it transitions almost continuously. This is 6 hours on my skin, 6.5 hours on my skin. I just did a fresh spray before the video on my right hand. This is a 6.5 hour dry down. And after about an hour, that initial beaten path, buffalo droppings with unwashed animal, probably the costas. You know, you're roaming the plains of the Sahara plains in Africa, the savannah, and it starts to dissipate. So 1 hour in is when the fragrance starts to change, and it starts to bring in notes like coffee. And I don't get very much coffee, okay? But I do get more tobacco. And the tobacco begins mixing with notes that seem a little bit more familiar to me. Not common, but familiar. You get that sandalwood association, right? And I mentioned that earlier on the Areej Doré website. It says that there's Bengal sandalwood, and apparently there is a little bit of a push to plant more sandalwood trees in the Bengal region in India. So there's Bengal sandalwood. There's a Papanax. I love a Papanax. There's fossil amber, and then the familiar note is the labdanum. The labdanum in Oud Picante will remind you of the labdanum in Russian oud. It has that almost like fiery lava like feel, like you took a lighter and melted the labdanum down and just kind of let it flow over your body. It has that feel to it, but you have to wait. See, I just sprayed this 15 minutes ago, and it doesn't have any of that yet. It's still extremely spicy. One of the most spicy openings I've ever smelled in my life. It's so spicy. Here, 6.5 hours in, that spice has almost completely dissipated, and it smells more like a traditional oud fragrance like you would expect in the late dry down, versus in the opening, it is one of the spiciest, most challenging fragrances. The first hour, you know, before the tobacco and that African wood comes in, that muhuhu wood, which, by the way, I hope I'm saying it correctly, because I'd look like an idiot standing up here saying muhuhu, and that's not how it's actually said. But I mentioned it's used in furniture and carvings and construction, but apparently they say it has this oily, balsamic smell, okay? That's what I read about the wood. And I'm curious if that olive oil, that Arabic breakfast olive oil vibe, comes from this wood, which I have zero experience with, none. Never even heard of it before this. There's also something smoky. There's this smoky incense, which could come from, I'm not familiar enough with Borneo oud to say it's from the oud. I could say that smokiness traditionally could easily come from labdanum, which it definitely could. But there's definitely something giving off this smokiness. And so the reason that I kind of waffled a little bit in the opening. So, the opening is extremely challenging. And first wear this morning, I put this on and went, whoa, this is not for me. This is just way too much. But then I kind of had to bring myself back to earth. And once I brought myself back to earth, I said, this fragrance does a lot of the things that I really appreciate a fragrance to do. It tells a story. It takes me on a journey. It's unique. It's different. It's daring. It doesn't follow the trends. But it's so daring. And it's so out of left field for someone like me in America. I've never been to Africa. But I get that it's almost like that, that African feel somehow. The oud adds this element that is really hard to pin down. The tobacco, all of it comes together, maybe because I have that Arabic breakfast in my head, maybe because I just did a review on antiquity where I told this story about the way it makes me feel and how it feels like you're going on a, train ride through antiquity with that fragrance. So maybe it's because I was being a little bit more poetic, but this really does feel like a day in the African, like you're on a safari. It feels like you get up, you have your breakfast, which, by the way, there's a lot of African countries that have traditional Middle Eastern breakfast. So you have your traditional breakfast, you get in the safari, you go see the animals, you stop, you smoke a pipe. The pipe is made out of, the tobacco is burned in some traditional pipe that is made out of some wood you've never heard of, this muhuhu wood. You get the dirty animal smell from the costus, the labdanum, and the amber and the apopanax just kind of bring everything together. It makes it to where if I had enough of this fragrance to wear for a week, I bet you by the end of the week I would love it. But it's just so challenging. The first hour is one of the most challenging fragrances I've smelled. I mean, it almost makes Koros seem easy to wear. Vintage Koros. It's that kind of challenging. It's the spices that I guess we're just not used to in the United States. I mean, I'll go eat Indian food. I've got my mango lassi here from my Indian food today. But most of the American population that is out and about and eating regular American food, whatever that is, McDonald's or who knows what the average American eats, is not going to run across huge doses of cumin, cardamom, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, muhuhu wood, tobacco, the challenging oud, Borneo oud, I don't know anything about. But there is that smokiness aspect, so it goes along with smoking a pipe kind of thing. And I mean, you have to, as a fragrance lover, you have to kind of sit back and give credit where credit is due. Even though I don't like this as much as some of the other Areej Doré fragrances, if you said, Ramsey, you're going to be given $1,000, go pick your favorite Areej Doré fragrances and bring them home, this would not be one of them. However, once I really kind of reeled myself back in from the first spray, when I went, whoa, this is not for me, I was able to really start to appreciate the nuances. And this can be a tough one to appreciate. I could easily see a beginner doing one spray of this and going, nope, sell it. It's not for me. But these are fragrances that have to be worn. They have to be, You know, that's why I make them my scent of the day when I talk about them. That's also why I wait 6 hours, because if I sprayed this on and talked about it in 5 minutes, my perception of the first 5 minutes would have been completely different than 6.5 hours in, because it does change. And it changes into something surprisingly beautiful. But man, it's hard waiting that hour, hour and a half to get there. But once it starts to transition, and it feels like it's in a constant state of transition, it feels like it almost never stays level, right? It's constantly changing. And it, you know, it's just so spicy and so different, but it seems relatively well blended. For if this is really what they're going for, this kind of essential spicy in your face blast, backed up by the oud and tobacco and labdanum and a Papanax and stuff like that. There's also a carrot seed facet here, which sometimes carrot seed can give off this almost like iris feel. Even though there's no iris, it can give off this powdery like vibe, right? And I can see why there's no Oud Picante 2, let's put it that way. Maybe the ingredients were just too hard to, you know, make another one. Maybe the demand just wasn't there because it was such a tough fragrance. I could see this being one that maybe wasn't as popular as some of the other ones like Russian Oud, stuff like that. So, that is pretty much my take on Oud Picante. Like I said, I got kind of a slap in the face this morning because I was so excited to try these, because I've been on a roll. I've been really hitting some, going, wow, this is great, this is great, this is great. And then I hit Oud Picante today and bam, I got slapped across the face. But I'm glad I did. I mean, it shows that, you know, Russian Adam is willing to take chances. And not everything, you know, there's an old saying, if you bat 300 in the majors, you're in the Hall of Fame. That is 3 out of 10 times you go to the plate, you hit a single or a double or a home run, assuming you're not cheating like some of the Astro players were. But you know, if there's a strikeout every now and then, which isn't really a strikeout because this actually seems like a fragrance that could grow on me, but from a first impression, this is not one that I would go for if I could go get full bottles of some of the stuff that I've smelled. Let's put it that way. But I do respect it. I respect what it was trying to do. I respect, you know, putting this kind of spice in a fragrance is, I mean, when I say Spice Bazaar, I literally mean African Spice Bazaar. Like you're at a Spice Bazaar and then someone takes your face and shoves it in the spices from behind as a joke, and they think it's hilarious and you don't because it went up your nostrils kind of thing and you can't get it out. That kind of spiciness in the first hour, hour and a half. Unbelievable. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys can leave some feedback and let me know your thoughts. If you've experienced this, if you have experience with Borneo oud oil, I would love to hear your thoughts, because I'm not an oud expert by any stretch of the imagination. I don't pretend to be one. I don't play one on TV. So, you know, I have to just put that out there up front. But, you know, it is, it's something that I feel very blessed and lucky to get to try these fragrances that are completely sold out, hard to find, all that good stuff. And so, again, Russian Adam, thank you for sending these to me. I have one left. I hope you felt that I have done these justice. I want to be as fair, and, you know, I want to be as fair to all sides as of the fragrance as possible. You know, I don't want to be too hard on it. I don't want to be too easy on it. I want to give you my 100% honest thoughts, and I do feel like I've done that on this one. So one left. I'm looking forward to it, and then the Areej Doré sample set will be by the wayside, but I have truly enjoyed doing these. I hope you guys have gotten some value out of them, and I've got some lists coming up. I've said it before. I'm going to say it till we hit 1,000. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do my top 100, which I'm very excited about. I'm ready to get that out of the way. And, you know, so a like, a subscription, A thumbs up does help. Although I won't force you to do it. I'm not going to twist your arm. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. I'm not here for likes. I'm not here for, to be YouTube famous or anything like that. I'm definitely not here to monetize the channel. I'm just here to try to share my thoughts, my love of perfume with you guys. I hope you've appreciated the early impression. Cheers, and I'll be back tomorrow with another review. Bye, guys.